Hi there, everybody. My name is Kate, and welcome to my channel, Chinergy Awakens Naturally. This is a timeless message. However, to give you some context, we are rocking and rolling with the pink full moon coming in tomorrow, or actually tonight, pardon me. It's just astrologically and cosmologically a very big time. We've got a lot of people in disarray, uproar. We're coming towards the end of Mercury retrograde. There's a lot of stuff batting around in the ethers. A lot of people are really uptight, angry, frightened, etc. And then we have others who are not so much. Unfortunately, I'm seeing more people who seem to be very much out of their element and out of balance with themselves and the world and with the things that are going around in their direct environment. So this message is really to bring a sense of comfort and hope. It is my desire to do so, that in my quiet time, in my alone time, in my lucid dreaming time, my dream time, quite a bit recently. There's been an enormous influx of energy that has been quite desperate feeling, but not desperate in a hopeless, oh my God, save me. Not that exactly, just a very desperate of, I'm so frightened, I don't know what to do with myself. Who do I reach to? What do I do? Where can I find comfort? Where can I find soothing? Where can I find something that can alleviate this fear for just half a second? And that's what I'd like to offer to you. To whomever this is for, that it's resonating, this is for you. For me personally, I believe it's got a couple of very specific people attached to it. However, putting out the broad message to anyone is what I really want to do, because I know in the moments when I'm feeling the most afraid, when I'm feeling the most alone and the most abandoned, it has been really crippling sometimes and absolutely mind-bending and mind-breaking and spirit-crushing to feel like I had nowhere to go with that. What do I do with that? And then to have literally no place to go, as in I don't have anybody I can turn to. I don't have any substance I can turn to. I don't have any thing I can do. There's nothing that is making this better. What do I do? And so, what I'm going to encourage you to do is to reach inside of yourself and allow whatever's happening to take your hands off the wheel as much as possible, which seems like, are you absolutely out of your mind? I couldn't possibly. And yet, for the brief snatches of time that we can, for as long as we can take a deep breath and say, okay, I'm willing to let this go for half a second. Please accept my hug and please accept my healing energy towards you, to say one breath at a time, one step at a time, 1 second at a time. One of the most valuable things that a therapist ever said to me was that anxiety and panic do not last forever. An anxiety attack or a panic attack will not last forever. It feels like it lasts forever when we're in that, because we get into that panic loop of, oh my God, it's starting, it's starting, it's starting. And then it does feel like it's going to be terminal. It's going to never end. And we become quite fatalistic in saying, oh God, the world's ending and everything is terrible. And it can be so hard, next to impossible, to pull ourselves out of that. And so when we find ourselves there, if we're able truly to install a nice breath, just breathe in and at least stop, change some action that we're doing, whatever we're doing, change it and give ourselves a physical reminder. I often snap or clap my hands, or will, make a blowing out sound or hiss or do something, anything, whatever comes to mind, to cause my mind to be distracted and to allow my physiology to take over. Because what can happen when we're in that spinning period is that our heart rate will go up, because we're experiencing a sense of panic inside of us. And once our heart rate goes up, our mind will latch on to, oh my God, I'm panicking, my heart's racing. It's not a conscious thought. It's an automatic response that our body's going through. However, our mind observes that and says, see, I have something to be nervous about. And then our breath usually shallows, and we end up perpetuating this flat spin of, oh my God, when will this end? Not ever. I'm going to die from this, or I'm going to be hurt, or, this will last forever, whatever it is. And those are all very real. I'm not putting any shame or stink on it at all, because in those moments when we're experiencing that kind of intense, I don't know that I can put up with this. This is too much. I cannot do this. It's too crushing. It's too scary. It's too horrible. It's too sad. It's too, whatever it is that we're experiencing, it's very, very real. and it's in our body, and that's how what we feel. And even sometimes, when we're talking to someone, we may not feel any better. And so being able to install that breath, just start with that if I can just take a deep breath, or even change my breathing, if I can just change my activity, if I can look a different direction, if I can try just closing my eyes and blinking a few times, anything that is going to stop the running away and getting the train going out of the station. I can't guarantee you that the train won't leave the station. It's just going to give it a little bit more difficulty in getting out at breakneck speed right off the top. And if we can stop it by taking deep breath, and we do something else, or we get up and we literally just move around the room, I very much know what it is to just say, yeah, that's stupid, and no, that won't work, and all these things. I understand that that's very common, and I have such compassion for that, because I do know that I have said that a million times and have to work very hard to remind myself that this is temporary. It doesn't last forever. And if I can get that physiological response, if I can get a hold of that before it takes off, and I start in that mind loop of, oh my goodness, my heart is racing and now I'm breathing funny, and then I start my oxygen to the brain gets decreased, and then all of a sudden I find that I'm dizzy and I'm not thinking clearly at all, and I was already in a panic state of being before I even started involving my physiology in it. And there's no shame in it. That's just physiology. We have a reason that we felt anxiety or panic. There was a reason. And oftentimes, for many of us who have had years and years of PTSD recovery, and we're experienced in the anxiety and panic attack arena, we do not have a reason out here. It's something very much internal, so it can't be justified out here. It wouldn't help if somebody patted us on the head and said, see, everything's fine, see, you're safe, you're safe. And that's why it's real important that we be able to find some way to comfort ourselves or soothe ourselves, because we may not feel that sense of comfort or soothing from someone else, even if we had them, or we may no longer be feeling a sense of comfort, soothing, or escape from the other things that we may be choosing. Our addictions may not be working quite as well, or our distraction of, I'll just play a video game, or I'll watch a movie, or I'll listen to music, or I'll smoke, or I'll do something along those lines. It's very common right now that people are finding that none of those distractions are working for me. And I absolutely do not mean to put any shame or stank on this, not at all. I just know that for myself, these last transits for the last few months, and particularly in the last couple of weeks since the eclipse in April 24, has been intense. And I've had to work really, really hard with myself to say, no, I need to slow this down before the pony gets out of the barn and just completely slams herself into a wall. I can't do that. I need to stop this anxiety somehow. And I have not been successful 100%. That's a misnomer to believe that people who are on their spiritual journey, 808, at least not me, I can't claim that 100% of the time I'm totally fine, that I no longer experience anxiety, I no longer have panic, I no longer have, twitchiness or anything that bothers me. That is simply not true. I still occasionally do have to deal with that bugaboo, and it's a little bit, disconcerting, because it is usually at this point a long period of time in between them. However, it would be a falsehood and a lie for me to tell you that I do not have to work through that as well. And so I'm offering it to you that no matter what state of consciousness or wickedness or darkness, whatever we're in, we all experience some sense of isolation, of fear, abandonment, PTSD response. If we have that, we have fear and we have anxiety. It's just the degree to which we have it and the degree to which we are able to cope with it, mitigate it, and deal with it. All of those are very different for all of us, depending on what we've been experiencing and how we assimilated and integrated those things that were happening to us. And we can re-traumatize ourselves over and over and over again by trying to gut through these experiences, by pretending it's not happening, or seeking other people or other places or other things that really aren't helping us, can make us feel even more isolated, can make us feel even more abandoned and even more lost and even more frightened. And so I'm encouraging that if we can take on as much as we can with, let me take a deep breath, let me snap my fingers, clap my hands, let me do a jumping jack or two, let me do something that I can do for myself, because the mind also registers, as much as it's registering the heart rates going up, it will also register that, hey, this lady's taking agency of what's going on here and is changing the way. It's breaking up that synaptic pattern. It's breaking up that electrical impulse that's happening right then with, I have agency over myself. I have sovereignty over my mind. Even if it's for that long, then you're retraining your mind. You're saying to this that, hey, this is just a computer program and that stuff's got to go away. And even though it may not sound quite so articulated, it might not be quite so clear, just doing something to say, look, I'm doing something about this for myself. I'm not expecting anybody out here to do it. I'm not expecting that, me going like this is going to just make my life 100% better. However, I'm taking agency over the fact that I would like for this to change. I'd like for this moment to stop and be different than it was a second ago, and having not the expectation that I'm taking agency, therefore I have full authority and everything's okay with me. If we have realistic expectations with ourselves, then we're not disappointed with ourselves, and we won't start all those drastic loops of, really feeling terrible. See, I told you whatever your worst critic is lives right up in your head. And then you have others out here who are willing to, support that, who may be some of the ones that installed that, that are still out here saying that. Or they could be perfect strangers that are helping you, come face to face with all your worst bugaboos that live up here. And then they come in here next. No, that's not okay. And so if we have not low expectations, but have reasonable expectations that what can I expect, changing the venue of me just getting up and walking around the room briskly, if it's something that I'm not used to doing, if it's not something that I would normally do. I don't normally do jumping jacks. However, occasionally that's something I will do, is just do like 3 jumping jacks just to mess my mind up. But no, whatever that little mind monkey is up there going, no, stop that. You got to go. And as I said, it's also not reasonable for me to buffalo myself and say, well, apparently, I'm on my healing journey now and I'm on my spiritual path and I'm so enlightened that I'll never have a problem again. I'm glad I didn't tell myself that originally, because I sure would have been disappointed or would not feel like I have any authority in my own life or the ability to know what I know. I can still know what I know and be a very spiritually driven person and still have to deal with things that are right here in 3D, because things occasionally do frighten me. It's just I don't generally at this point deal with the fright coming from inside my mind. And when it does, man, that's an extra special fight. I'd almost rather be out here having to deal with, I could deal with almost anything out here that frightened me, but please don't leave me in my own mind to have to battle all those little demons, because they're mean and they know exactly where to hurt and where to hit, to get that hurt. Like, this isn't fair. And so that's why it's become very valuable to me to find a different activity, find something else to do, distract them, distract the monkeys. And it's not always easy. I'm not suggesting to you it is. Sometimes I feel like I'm wrestling demons, for hours on end, and it can be very wearing. It can be very jarring. And occasionally, we do need to do something that helps to assist us with sleep or helps us to, get our mind distracted in a more, complete way, whatever that is. I'm not giving advice, nor am I suggesting anything in particular. It's just sometimes we do need something a little more assistive in getting us right out of that spot, because it's more traumatic to be in that spot. However, I'm encouraging you that whatever you do whatever you usually do. If it's overboard and it's addictive, if you must go that direction, then try doing less and see. I'm going to not hold out and say I refuse to do that, because that's bad. I'm not putting a good or bad on it. I'm just saying, in order to take complete agency, that perhaps I'm going to not turn that off and say I refuse to do that because that's bad. I'm going to wait until I have had an opportunity to at least come to my rightful place of ownership with it, that yes, I do indeed need to make this step and go forward here in this direction to feel the best with myself, so that it's not born from that place of out of fear. I went ahead and just hurried up and ran right up out of here and avoided the opportunity to get some agency on this. And, as I said, there are times whenever I have to turn to legal THC to put me to sleep, because otherwise I might be up for a minute or two, and that just wraps into a whole other separate story, that turns into a flat spin in a different direction. Doesn't happen very often. However, when it does, I'm not going to argue with it or call it bad. Even though at one time I had an addiction to benzodiazepines. And so, it could be seen as something bad, and many people would. However, the reality is that I'm using this in a very careful and managed way. Then, what I really need to be saying to myself and to nobody else, because nobody needs an explanation of what I'm doing with my life, is that I'm choosing to cut this short because it's really frying out my brain more than I can really tolerate or manage on my own. And as long as I don't see myself slipping into, days and days and days and weeks and weeks and weeks of using something in particular, no matter what it would be, that seems to be, sedating me or distracting me or keeping me from really dealing with the reality of what's really bothering you. Let's see if we can get to that. As long as I don't see myself moving in that direction, then I don't have a problem with doing what needs to be done. And I do encourage myself at this point, though, let's see if we can really keep that pony from running out of the barn to begin with, and keep the train from leaving the station ahead of time. And when I can feel that coming, and I know that it's really, this is just something that really seems to be amping up, I don't wait a whole long time to see if it's going to get completely gone and then I'm melted down into the floor. It's a very careful operation at this point. And when I was coming off of addictions, it was a very, sloppy mess. And so I can't say that, it's a success right out the door. All you have to do is just, clap your hands or do a couple of jumping jacks and you'll be completely fine. What I am saying, though, is that when we reach in our divine and we're willing to take agency and say, look, I'm going to take this one breath at a time. And I'm not denying myself that I'll use whatever coping method I usually use that may not be the healthiest for me. I'm not saying I won't use that. How I'm going to use this first before I do and see if I can make a change in the neurology of me. And then we'll, placate the biology of me with something else or the chemistry of me or whatever it is that we're choosing to do. And so it's not necessarily about not doing or doing. It's a matter of whatever we're doing. If we're in the place of feeling just completely terrorized and what we're doing isn't changing that or working, then clearly we could utilize something different, possibly. Seems to me that would be a clear message is that's not working for me, then I need to find something else that can. And finding those things that are carefully chosen, and submitting to the process is not necessarily submitting to an addiction or a terrible behavior that we consider terrible anyway, or that somebody else would, or submitting and saying, oh, well, never again. It's a matter that, if I'm dieting, and I was very heavy and I was working consciously to lose weight, I was watching my intake of food. And so if I, decide that this is what I really want to have, then the talk that I need to have with myself in order for that pony not to go running out of the barn and say, cool, it's a freebie now, was that I'm choosing to eat something really sweet, and really delicious tasting to me. And this is a momentary pleasure. Yes, it is for about, the 10 minutes or so that I might be consuming this. This is going to be fairly temporary, upside how long it will take for me to probably lose the weight of this or pay for this or how I might feel after I eat this. And once I can get to that point that I'm having that very real conversation with myself, then I can actively choose and say, do I want to go through with this or do I not? And let me promise you, there's still some times, even though, I have to pay for it, the holidays and stuff, there's just certain foods I like. And I know by the end of holidays, I'm going to need to work a little bit harder to get my figure back, and to hike a little further to pay back, the fact that I really like marshmallows on my yams. I just really like that, not the healthiest choice in terms of foods. However, the healthiest choice for me to make without feeling denied, because if some part of me feels denied, then I feel more on edge and I'm more likely to feel anxious and snotty and all kinds of stuff and agitated. And that for me, being agitated already about not having what I want, that was a huge gateway and still can be for feeling anxiety. And anxiety is about only that far of a step away from me to start feeling panic attacks immediately about random stuff that nobody else can see. It's just living in my mind. All of a sudden, I feel panic and I don't know what to do with this. And so I'm encouraging you, now's a great time, especially when we have so much weird stuff happening. I mean, there's just so much going on in the ethers and, up above us in cosmology. There's lots of astral alignments and movements. And oh my goodness, there is a bunch going on. And there's a bunch going on in 3D that would suggest to us that we have a lot to be anxious about, and we have a lot we need to be aware about, perhaps. However, I, for myself, would like to just impart that the most important awareness we can have is with ourselves and for ourselves, so that we can handle what we are being made aware of out here. This stuff out here is quite temporary, whereas the relationship with ourselves is for the rest of our lives, and if we can't really get that, intact, then we're subject to those monkeys out there activating the monkeys in here that aren't even really real. So it's quite a battle though sometimes, and whatever you can do to please accept this from me to you, that you're not crazy, you're not stupid, you're not a million things. Even if you struggle with mental health issues, people saying you're crazy. Mental health is something that we all have. We all have mental health, and some of us, we do have our struggles. They're harder than others. Some of us have diagnoses, and some of us don't and need them, in order to be more correctly classified. So it isn't about, how we're labeling ourselves. It's a matter of saying that you're a human being living on the planet when there is a lot of darkness that is being unearthed, and a lot of darkness that is being slung around, and people are being very unkind to one another. And there's a lot of very big stuff that can really look rather scary to us when we really don't know how to deal with that. We're seeing things that we've never seen before. We're seeing events that, we think shouldn't be happening because this is just too weird. How could this possibly be? And so it's not weird or unusual that if you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling like, what the hell, there's nothing about that shocks me. There's nothing about that surprises me. It brings up great compassion in me, because I know how, weird I feel too. And I want to just put it out there to you that please accept my hug, and please accept some compassion and understanding from another Earth walker, an Earth citizen who also has experiences of anxiety and fear, just like you do, and every other feeling. And has found a way that has worked pretty well to kind of mitigate that and learn how to get better about dealing with it, and being very clear and understanding that we're kind with ourselves, that it's not always a quick process. Very rarely have I ever seen that be just a, flash process that somebody gets an idea and it just works every time from the very beginning. It certainly didn't work that way for me. And there's nothing wrong with you, no matter what you're experiencing. There is nothing wrong with you. You're not, just a worthless human being, and you're not, less of a spiritual anything. You are a beautiful human being, whatever you're going through. You have every reason to feel the way that you feel. There's a reason for every feeling that you feel. And it's okay. It's just a matter of learning, how can I deal with them before they run away? So good luck on your journey, and may you enjoy your day no matter what part of the day you're in. And remember, get within your skin, because you're divine. It is absolutely fine. And when we reach inside and we really reach that divine, when we can get in there to the divine, we have to plunder around in the closet sometimes and get through a whole lot of anxiety, PTSD, terrible memories, and awful people's faces and awful memories. There's just a lot of clutter and butter in there. Our closet's full. And that can take a little while. So please do be patient with yourself, even if other people around you aren't. Can't wait for them to be patient with you or for you, in order for you to feel patient. So feel free to take that that patience into you, and say, I'll be patient with me no matter what you do. And it'll help to cope with those out there that are not very sensitive about understanding what we're going through. It would be very difficult for people to understand what we're going through without being in our bodies, to know how we're experiencing that. It's very difficult, especially if they claim they've never felt that way before. So, as I said, get within your skin, because you're divine. Absolutely fine. Take care of your beautiful selves, and I will see you again next time. Mwah. Goodbye, my friends.